So a lot to talk about in this video. First and foremost, yes, I am being flown out to California by Blizzard to check out the brand new Spiritborn class. So I leave it to you guys to ask some questions in the comments down below. What are your burning questions that you would like answered at this event? I'll try to get some questions going to the dev team and see what I can find out for you guys. And then I will be making content, new gameplay, all sorts of stuff coming to the channel about the Diablo 4 expansion, the new class. So look out for that. Definitely turn on your notifications. But today we're also going to be talking about, yes, Season 5. Some really cool minor changes happening with Season 5, which actually end up being major significant changes. More on that in just a moment. Plus, treasure goblins are changing going forward for the better. We'll talk about that and some feedback about how Season 4 content should just be thrown into the base game itself. Let's see what you guys also have to say about feedback. We'll dive into your top comments. But yeah, I'm excited for this upcoming trip. It's going to be happening on July 12th. Again, special thank you to you all for watching. You're the ones that make this possible. And special thank you to Blizzard for inviting me out. But yeah, let's start out with the Season 5 stuff. And here's the headline. It says this tiny Diablo 4 Season 5 PTR change finally fixes one of my biggest pet peeves. And it's running in action right here as well in the gameplay. You're probably wondering, what could this be? So yes, we'll dive into this article. It says, all the major mechanical overhauls in Diablo 4 Season 4 PTR introduced to the game were exciting and amazing and everything, but as I admitted around the time, it was really the change to the Codex of Power that had me the most eager to launch the game when Season 4 officially started. Couldn't agree more with that. Now it says, and wouldn't you know it, there's a similar change in the Season 5 PTR, which kicked off earlier this week, that also has me all giddy. No, it's not the new Horde mode, which is fine, and any of the new pieces of gear. It's actually a tiny option in the game settings menu with a massive impact. It says Diablo 4 has always had a problem with combat text, which is the various alerts you get when fighting monsters. This is the stuff like status effects, vulnerable, fortified, etc., damage numbers, and so on. It can get so overwhelming that it covers the entirety of your screen, and it makes it hard to see what you're actually clicking on. In earlier patches, Blizzard attempted to address that issue by letting players hide it all, show it all, or only hide damage numbers. While that was a welcome change, it simply didn't offer enough ways to customize combat text. And yeah, it has changed for the better. You can really adjust this, and I like the clean, sleek look with basically no information on the screen. That's what I'm currently running right now, and I can't recommend it enough. It's such a significant change for me. I just love hopping into Diablo 4 now and seeing all the beautiful artwork instead of just like a pile of numbers and information over the screen, which can be a little bit overwhelming to the artwork and really hide it. But yeah, they go on to say this, and I totally agree here. It goes on to say, I, for instance, like damage numbers, but I could do without the constant barrage of text until Season 5 PTR kicked off. There's no way to get just that, but I'm happy to say that Blizzard went above and beyond this time, letting players customize every aspect of it. So you can do what you want with this. There's now an entire subsection dubbed combat text options. There are individual toggles for all types of damage, from normal, critical, etc., buffs, debuffs, crowd control effects, defensive actions, the whole thing. You can turn all combat text off if you choose to. Digging through the options menu is one of my favorite things to do in games, especially after releases of major patches. Blizzard may not have found these toggles big enough to warrant making noise about them, but I'd be lying if I didn't say they matter more to me than a lot of what's coming with Season 5. Couldn't agree more. And yeah, I see this thing being a permanent change. It's not going to be just with Season 5, of course. So kudos to Blizzard for adding this in. But they're also making changes to, yes, our treasure goblins. It says this right here. If we expand into what they're changing, it says Diablo 4 will improve the quality of treasure goblins loot in Season 5. According to Blizzard, treasure goblins will drop 1 to 3 legendary items and 2 to 6 rare items. So the higher number of legendary drops, the lower the number of rare drops. With the opposite, possible elixirs are Diablo 4 consumables, of course, that grant temporary buffs. And in this upcoming season, treasure goblins will drop 1 or 2 of those items. Additionally, from Season 5, treasure goblins will give common ore, herbs, leather, and gem fragments to Diablo 4 players. So yeah, looks like treasure goblins are going to be definitely worth chasing down a little bit more in Season 5 for sure. Now, it also does go on to say this, another adjustment to the treasure goblins will be the gold drop, which will get a buff proportional to the Diablo 4 players world tier. A level 1 player in World Tier 1 will receive about 40,000 gold from the Treasure Goblins, while a level 100 player in World Tier 4 will receive 150,000 gold. I still think it should be more, I'm just saying. Now, in World Tier 3 and 4, the Treasure Goblins will give Forgotten Souls, and their chance of dropping 1 to 2 Shattered Prisms will increase to 10%, 20%, and 30% in World Tiers 1 and 2, and World Tier 3 and World Tier 4, respectively. So yeah, some cool things happening there with the Treasure Goblins. Now, we got to talk about Season 4. It seems like the community overall, from what I have seen, have been pretty impressed by Season 4. It's that even-numbered team that seems to be hitting it each time they release the seasons. Now, this is the opinion out on the subreddit. Check it out right here. It goes on to say this: anyone else feel the game would be better if they made Season 4 content base game? Profane mine cages help keep Hell Tides interesting a bit longer. I love these, by the way, and I definitely think this should be definitely a permanent feature in the game going forward in all seasons. Also, it says new elixirs are just all around fun. Yeah, I've seen some people like the Holy Bolts, and some people are kind of like on the fence about them. How do you stand about something like the Holy Bolts being in the game like permanently? Then Iron Wolves Faction Journey allows players access to in-game items, such as Stein, Resplendent Sparks, etc. The game is just all around better with these things in it, and removing the content seems counterintuitive. Yeah, you know, Blizzard has spoken about this previously, whether or not they would be keeping, you know, seasonal features in the game going forward, and it takes about every 2 seasons for them to decide. So if they do ultimately decide to say, hey, profane mine cages would be a permanent thing, you would probably see that sort of announcement happen in Season 6. It most likely would not be happening with Season 5 because that's already in development. That's already nearing completion. So yeah, that's how it works with the development of this sort of thing. But yeah, some replies here from Mistakes SC, who says, yeah, everything this season should be standard for Eternal and every new season. And another reply saying, truth, the only real benefit to playing Season 4 was the spark in the last bag from the Wolf rep. Yeah, so that was also a really popular feature. I think they should keep up the faction type reward system that they had going forward and make that more of a common thing with seasons, and even in perhaps the Eternal realm as well. Now, also, we have this one right here. It says you need to either cap or uncap every single legendary node key passive. Interesting. So, furthermore, it says balance cannot exist in a game where certain passives like Victimize or Gushing Wounds can scale to the moon. Meanwhile, others are left to cap at, say, 25%. This creates both class imbalance and skill imbalance between classes. People don't want nerfs, but they complain their class only has 1 to 2 viable builds. And by viable, they mean has uncapped scaling they can send to the moon with tempering. This is interesting. Sorcerer's issue is going into Season 5. It has 0 uncapped scaling. That's why it can't scale. Build crafting is constrained to only being able to run stuff that increases damage everywhere possible. New unique aspects that don't directly increase damage via a multi are immediately dead. That's why it's the worst damage class. The only way Sorcerer can scale really high is with Shatter, because the shatters with chain into each other creates basically uncapped scaling as you shatter more mobs into each other. It's not a healthy way to design a class, forcing it to basically Holy Bolt cheese to do damage. No mobs, no damage. Interesting take there. There's a raw limit with cap scaling. The damage can only get so high when you multiply it by 1.2, then by 1.3, and so on. If you introduce a single uncapped variable that can, say, scale damage by 10 or 20, that single variable is worth basically the entirety of the rest of the multis. No other build without that 10 times multi will ever come close. And you'll notice yet again, we're talking about the Sorcerer. They've really got to get busy and let us know what they might do with the Sorcerer. And a reply here. It's important to remember that the Diablo team, since Diablo 3, have always had the same thoughts when designing classes. They themselves want to design the builds you can play. They do not want the player to create builds. We're not given tools to create a build. We're given broken up set items. This is not going to change ever, as it's a design choice that is embedded into the team. This is why I get frustrated when people claim this is not the same team who worked on Diablo 3. Fundamentally, it is. Hence, the same design choices are being made. And a reply here kind of countering this. That was true in Diablo 3, not so in Diablo 4. The community has come up with a wild variety of builds, unlike Diablo 3, where the build was the set. So yeah, that is true with, I think, things like the Barbarian, Necromancer, Rogue. But, when we talk about the Sorcerer's having the biggest problem by far with these issues in terms of scaling, in terms of not being able to be like uncapped. So I think that is the core issue that we're talking about here. But yeah, guess what? Now it's time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. We can end up right here in a future video. So let's do this. All right. This is the top comment from my most recent video. It says, I still can't believe they thought we were going to run around each season and collect the Altars of Lilith. Yeah, they got on that very quickly, didn't they? And then it says, a game should never feel like a job. You made the game to be played. Let us play it and not feel like I'm at work. 100%. And that, again, is one of the reasons why I kind of like shut off the damage text and all those indicators. Is that I just want to actually kind of like have fun at this point. And yes, I think I do feel the power difference as I use weapons. I don't necessarily need numbers to tell me that. So I'm kind of trying it out for myself. Part of me does kind of miss that information feedback, but also I just really like the look of the game without all that clutter. But yeah. All right, so we also have this one, Novi, who says, I want blue glyphs to be scrapped. How about legendaries and or uniques? Seems like a lot of you guys also want that as well by the upvotes there. Now, we have whole season dedicated to the one minigame that will get boring fast. This feels super safe. Zero imagination went into this. Yeah, I've been seeing some of the, other YouTuber streamers playing Season 5 PTR, and they are saying that it does get boring. Some of them have already quit the PTR as well. So I'm kind of curious to see how Blizzard is going to be responding to this, or if they're going to take this one as an L and just move on. Because you got to remember that Season 5 is going to be much shorter than other seasons, and then we're going to rotate fairly quickly into Season 6. So my guess is their focus is going to be heavily around the expansion Season 6 and this brand new class. And this one is just going to be the way it is. I could be wrong. They might make significant adjustments by the time Season 5 finally rolls out. We'll have to wait and see, but there will be patch notes up, and I'll let you guys know what those adjustments might be. Now, we also have this one. They need to do something with the garbage Paragon board. Okay, interesting. I want to see the replies here. It says, I agree with you. At first, I thought it was great. When we look at the skill trees versus Paragon board, they need to be switched with meaningful and fun skills. I feel like sometimes the Paragon board complements only specific builds, and you're kind of narrowed into these builds. And I feel like they need to open up the options on the Paragon board. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that means changing up the legendary nodes on offer or adding more legendary nodes. There's just things I do think need to be adjusted on that end, because I'm always feeling like I'm being funneled or forced into a certain build type, half the time still, because of the Paragon board specifically. There it is. Love reading your comments. But yeah, we'll see what Blizzard does with all of this, what they could do with the feedback. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.